Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Juggernaut, and today I'm here to talk to you about some nerdy stuff. Well, Juggernaut, isn't that what you usually talk to us about in pretty much every video? Touche, but today we're going to talk about graphics cards. I reckon about 30 days, maybe 40 days after this video, which I know is a lengthy prediction, or it's not exactly, soon, but I reckon around 30 to 40 days after this video, I'm going to make a very similar one about CPUs, so in case you're interested, stay tuned for that, but I'll get into the hows and whys towards the end, but for now, let's focus on GPUs, and let's take a look at, well, far be it for me to provide you an overview of the market and try and be an expert on the subject and anything, but I'm going to provide you with my experience. I'm going to tell you the research that I did and what I know about graphics cards and the state of them, and as an invention, really, for now. And I'm going to sort of throw in my piece in there, and you can agree or disagree with it, and maybe you'll learn something new. So, I hope you stick around, because I do have something somewhat interesting and perhaps, maybe not controversial, but somewhat nuanced to, I think, contribute to this conversation. So, first of all, let's start off with my new graphics card and my experience with it. I have bought a AMD 7900 XT, and I managed to get it for a fairly low price. But then again, about 2 weeks after I bought it, the price for those cards dropped worldwide. Thing is, though, they didn't drop in my country. In my country, the price went up. I think it has something to do with import taxes and tariffs and whatnot. So whilst in places like the US and the UK, the price dropped by, I think, as much as $100, or the regional equivalent, in some places here it actually went up by about 100 euros or $100 ish. So yeah, I think it's going to drop soon over in my place as well, but my point is I got it for a fairly low price. Now, $1,000, or in my case, okay, $900 for a graphics card is by no means a low price in general. It's just a low price compared to all the other prices that these cards are going for, and, well, cards are going for in my country in general. And yes, I know in some places you can pick a XTX variant for around $600. I do not live in such a country, though, so graphics cards here are generally a lot more expensive. With that said, I want to talk to you about my experiences with the card, my, not really review, because I'm not going to give you any data or anything about it, but just some problems and, well, some nice stuff, some nice experience that I had with it, but also some problems with it. So, let's get down to it. Generally speaking, and this has been the case for a very, very long time, Nvidia makes better cards, AMD makes cheaper cards. And that's it. Again, generally speaking, for the same amount of money, you can get a slightly better Nvidia card in terms of its power to price ratio, but Nvidia had, for the longest while, for as long as I can remember, had AMD pretty much always beat in terms of the raw quality, the durability, the drivers, the temperature of their cards. AMD cards used to be a lot hotter in general. I say used to be, because that's no longer the case, because in my modest opinion, and I'm really sorry if you're an Nvidia fan, hell, I'm one, right? I prefer Nvidia in most cases, even with all of their nonsense right now. I genuinely tend to prefer them over AMD, to the point of being a bit of a fanboy, but not even I can defend their current business practices. And I can start with the fact that they're not putting enough VRAM into their cards, because they're not. I can start with the fact that a $1,000 card should really, really, really not have just 8 GB of VRAM and be 192-bit. That's outrageous, and I'll tell you exactly why they make their cards like that right now. It's because they want you to buy cards more regularly, whereas AMD is more than happy to sell you a 7900 XT and know full well that for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 generations, you're going to be very happy with that card. They're fine with it. Nvidia, they want you to buy a card every year, and this is what they're going towards. Now, I also hope that they understand that some of their player base, and some, well, it's not player base, sorry, I'm just playing a video game in the background, so some of their consumer base is able to afford that, because some of their consumer base buys the newest card as soon as it comes out. Not really caring for the stats of it, not really caring whether they need it. Nvidia came out with the newest card, they have to have it, and they buy it. But I'm hoping that they also understand that that's not the majority of their consumer base. And in fact, they better understand it because, well, their market share and their general economic situation recently has not been great. They've experienced a significant loss in profit, in number of sales, in market share, in damn near everything. Prior to this tomfoolery and nonsense, if you take a look at, for example, Steam statistics, the vast majority of players, something like 80-something%, I think, had Nvidia cards. And, well, the other 20% had AMD cards, right, Juggernaut? No, the other 20% had integrated cards, had Intel cards, the new series that came out and was, objectively speaking, in many ways, just worse than both AMD and Nvidia, because it failed to provide the performance or the price of either, so it just sort of got stuck in this weird loop of it's more expensive than both, but it's also worse than both for the performance. Not class to class, but generally if you're looking for the same performance as, for example, a 4070 or a 4080 Nvidia card, you'd be paying a lot more for Intel. And in many ways they just can't compete because of the drivers and because of the software and the developers, generally speaking, sort of leaning towards either AMD or Nvidia when making their games, and the engines, and etc, etc. I'm not going to get too into detail about that. But there's also another change that's happening. More and more developers are looking away from Nvidia and towards AMD when making their games now. Which means, going forward, after the release of the 4000 series and with some of the newer games, we're going to see that newer games are now, for perhaps the first time in history, ever since the split between... actually, no, let me actually think about this. Probably ever since, like, the 90s or early 2000s, but maybe even before that. It's just that I was very young at that time, I don't really remember right, so... Since then, definitely, but for the first time, maybe, like I said, maybe it goes back even further, but since then, definitely, we're going to have, potentially, I can't say for sure, but potentially, more video games being primarily optimized for AMD cards than for Nvidia cards. That's scary, that's confusing, and it's also exciting for anyone that bought an AMD card. Now, here's the thing. I praise AMD right now, and I really want to do that because for the price of this card that I got, I could have bought a Nvidia card and it would have been a heck of a lot slower, and its longevity would be a quarter... wow, that was unexpected. Would probably be a quarter of what I have with AMD. But at the same time, neither company is really great. And here's my controversial take. I think the current state of graphics cards and the industry in general is such that both the greens and the reds, being Nvidia and AMD respectively, suck. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit. They don't really suck. But for the consumer, for the average consumer, I think the situation is a lot worse than a couple of years ago. and I genuinely believe this. Let me explain why. On the one hand, we have Nvidia ripping us off for all our money, and selling us cards that are purposefully being underpowered and, you know, were made worse than they should be for the same price, just so we buy their cards more often. On the other hand, we have AMD, who sell very good, expensive cards, but after about a decade of selling cards, they are still unable to get their freaking drivers right. To be fair to AMD, they are a lot better now than they were years ago. But they're still nowhere near as good as Nvidia. And that's the simple truth. And here I'm going to go back to my card and my experiences with it, and I'm going to demonstrate all of these things and what I'm talking about. Okay, first of all, I had a 1440p monitor running at 144 Hz, and that monitor was connected to an old Nvidia 1060, a 6GB version, which to date is a very good card. The problem is, if you're playing games at 1440p, it's a little bit slow. Now, for gaming at 1080p, honestly, I'd fully recommend that card. Matter of fact, I'm selling my old card for about £100 or 100 euros right now, slightly under. My used Nvidia card for about 100 euros. That's a steal. Really, really is. If you want to upgrade your computer and you're not playing on more than 1080p, I genuinely believe that is an ideal card for you if you can't afford anything better. It's amazing. It really is. And I'm almost sad to see it go, because it's just so... It was just so ahead of its time, right? And the 2000 series came out, and yeah, okay, it was a little bit better, but it was nothing to write home about. And then the 3000 series came out, and yeah, okay, fair enough, it was a little bit better than that. But 3060 compared to a 1060 is sort of in the same range. You don't really get much out of it. That's new. Okay, yeah, don't get me wrong, it's undoubtedly a better card, but at the same time, it's like, you know, it's alright. Not a huge difference. If you jump up a class, though, then okay, yeah, at that point we do have some substantial differences. But, like I said, because I'm playing at 1440p at 144 Hz, I wanted to get something much better for myself so that I could, you know, enjoy the proper experience visually, and, well, it just requires a better card. So, Nvidia's too expensive, and the cards are shite, and I don't like the longevity of them, and unless you're buying a 1480 or a 1490, you are being ripped off, and even a 1480 is not great. It could be a lot better for the same price. It really could. Or at least a similar price. If AMD can put 16 or 20 or 24 gigs of VRAM on their cards, you bet your ass Nvidia can do it as well. I am not willing to sit here and accept that AMD can put more VRAM in their cards than Nvidia for the same price, and that they're just gonna, you know, somehow this is the same thing, and that somehow it's a different situation for Nvidia, and that, you know, their cards can't take it, but AMD cards can, and or whatever the dumb reason is, or that their architecture is so much different, and it's nonsense, right? If AMD can do it, Nvidia can do it. So back to the 7900 XT. It's a fast card. It's a good card. It performs admirably well. I've tested it out on several games. I've played Red Dead Redemption with it. I haven't tested it out on Cyberpunk. I've played the new Spider-Man game, the remastered one, and it performed really well in all those games. I then tested it out on something else. What did I play? Yeah, well, I played Dark Souls, yeah, right, fair enough. I've played GTA 5, fair enough. Kind of old games, and not really all that important. And then I played Elden Ring. And in Elden Ring, it really impressed me. Because, I mean, okay, Elden Ring isn't the most graphically demanding game, but it really impressed me because the frame rate was rock solid. Yeah? And then I booted up Borderlands 2, which is the game in the background, by the way, which I haven't chosen by accident. This is the second Borderlands video this week, but there's a good reason for it. Then I booted up Borderlands 2 and I realized that despite being a very old game, AMD still can't do those fancy physics, and you have to turn physics to low in Borderlands 2 with an AMD card. Matter of fact, I'll show you. Physics are grayed out. You cannot change them. You can change everything else, you can't change this. So all of these games on 1440p ran pretty smooth, except for Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, Red Dead Redemption 2 benchmarked a lot better than it is currently performing on my system, and I reckon a part of the reason is my very old processor. It's a good processor, it's a little bit overclocked as well, so don't get me wrong, it's good, but maybe I have a little bit of, what's the technical term for that? Bottlenecking, right? Maybe I have a little bit of bottlenecking with the processor. Fine. I expected it to run a little bit smoother. I expected to have sort of frame rate in the high 100s at all times. I did not. But okay. What really ticked me off was the fact that I started having driver issues with the 7900 series very, very quickly. First of all, my first driver problem was with Hearts of Iron and Paradox Grand Strategy games, which tended to crash whenever I was booting into them. If you successfully boot in and start playing them, it's no problem. But sometimes on startup, it would crash. I submitted a report, and there was an update a couple of days later, and it got fixed. Am I the reason why this was fixed, or were multiple people experiencing the same problem and then reported it? I don't know, and honestly, I don't care. The important thing is, it got fixed. Did I make the card and, by extension, the company a little bit better in doing so? Honestly, I hope so. They can have it for free, fine. Maybe it wasn't me, maybe they didn't even see my report, maybe it was something else. I don't know, and I don't care, honestly, but there was a problem with that. And then I get over to one of my friends who is constantly now having issues with his AMD card, the XTX variant, in that his webcam is now freezing because of his graphics card. He's experiencing crashes a little bit more often. He's experiencing crashes in some games as well. His card is overheating. Could it be a defective card? Maybe. Did he change it? Yes. Did the overheating problems go away? Yes. Did the crashing stop? No. And see, here's the problem. It's not just some budget version of a graphics card that I picked up at the local store. This is the second best card AMD has. In fact, it's the best card they have, it's just that the XTX version has a little bit extra on top of it, right? So basically, they're the same card, it's just that the XTX is just a little bit extra. So it is, in many ways, their flagship card. And their flagship card has issues like this. Granted, it's not exclusive to the card itself, it's more like the entire series and the software that comes with the card and everything. But it's still a pretty darn big issue. But then, there's also this. There's the small annoyances that you get. So there's the annoyance, for example, that if I boot up FIFA, I get screen tearing and screen flickering. Actually, mostly screen flickering. In some other games, I also get screen flickering unless I turn on VSync. I don't like VSync. I genuinely like to leave it off in most games, but I get screen tearing and flickering if I turn it on. If I don't turn it on, sorry. That's not great. I also had a mild annoyance with the card in that my old DisplayPort cable wouldn't work with the new graphics card, but it would work with the old Nvidia card. And I tested it out. It works with the newer Nvidia cards as well. So I had to go out of my way and buy a brand new top-of-the-line DisplayPort cable, which set me back another $30. Here's the thing, it's not the most amount of money in the world, don't get me wrong, and yeah, I needed a cable anyway, because I'm probably going to buy a new TV, and I'm going to hook that up as well, so I can try a little bit of 4K gaming, maybe at some point in the future, towards the end of the year, I'm thinking, etc, etc, and yeah, I understand this is not for most people. I'm in the minority when it comes to, well, when it comes to 4K, playing in 4K in general, and wanting to test it out, but you know, I understand that maybe I'm in the minority of all of this, and maybe it's a bit of a first world problem, but it's a first world card, so to speak. It's $1,000. I really shouldn't have to deal with any of this. And the problem is I didn't have to deal with any of this with Nvidia. And then not to mention that the UI and the overall experience of AMD's control center and its software for managing your card is a little bit just worse in every way than Nvidia's control panel. Sorry. It is, but it may be okay, maybe that's a little bit more down to personal taste than anything else, but it's a problem. It genuinely is a problem when you consider how much you're paying for it. I mean, hell, again, maybe this is a bit personal, but in my country, that card costs more than a monthly salary for the vast majority of the population. Now, yes, we are a bit of a poor country, don't get me wrong, and we're not exactly the wealthiest. You know, having less than 1,000 euros or $1,000 salary on average is not great. I know many countries that have way more. Some countries in the neighborhood have way more. I understand that, but there's nothing I can do to change that right now. But even if it's half the salary, it's still a ton of money, and you really shouldn't have to deal with stuff like this for that price that you pay for such a premium, right? And on the other hand, if you want to go in the other route, the Nvidia route, there's different problems on that end. Problems of, well, I bought it now, and a year from now I'm going to need to change it, and matter of fact, now already 8 gigs of VRAM isn't enough for some games. You don't believe me? Install Hogwarts Legacy and play it in 1440p. I'll wait here while you do it, I'm kidding. Obviously, I don't expect anyone to actually try it, but look at some benchmark results for it. It's not good. 8 gigs of VRAM is not enough. It's not going to be enough. And, yeah. And it's not just the 8 gigs of VRAM, it's other things as well. Like I said, the bitrate for it is atrociously bad. It's worse. Matter of fact, in some benchmarks, I want to share this information with you as well. The new 4060 card from Nvidia scored worse, yes, worse than the 3060. Juggernaut, this is some kind of elaborate joke or ruse that you're playing. No, I swear to you, I saw it on Reddit, which means it must be true. Jokes aside, though, I swear to you,
let me know if anything catches your eye.
This is real.
Don't die.
In some metrics, it scored worse than the 3060. Here's the thing. On the Escape from Pripyat Discord server, a guy that does tech support for the mod said the following. Nvidia is no longer a gaming company. Gamers built Nvidia. We rose it from being, you know, just a regular GPU company to the heights that it is today. They built their cards for gamers, and we bought them. We bought them up every year, right? And they scored amazingly well in the market, and they were a good company. And we loved their products, and yeah, they were always a little bit too expensive, and they were always a little bit greedy, but Nvidia is no longer a gaming company. Rather, Nvidia is no longer a company that makes GPUs for gaming. They've made it, with the recent releases, abundantly clear they do not care about gamers anymore. They are now interested in cryptocurrency, AI, and God knows whatever other nonsense that honestly I care very little about, but they care very much for. So, there we go.
Oh yeah, and since you shiver brain.
It is unfortunate, but I do believe he's right.
I'll say it again. Stop bringing in fake sirens.
So, what do we do? Well, where do we go from here? Well, in my case, like I said, I had an ancient card, and I've been wanting to upgrade it for a while, and I've been saving up money to upgrade it for a long, long while, for 2 years now, and actually maybe even more than that. I was thinking about buying a new GPU and getting something better. But then I was like, oh, the prices skyrocketed, and oh, maybe wait a little bit more and the prices will drop. And then cryptocurrencies came out, and then the prices skyrocketed again. And then the cryptos crashed, and I was like, okay, here comes the price drop. And then NFTs came out and stuff, and the flu that shall but not be named came out as well. And then there was all sorts of shortages, and I couldn't get a card then either because it was, prices didn't drop. And then eventually I was like, yeah, the prices are never going to drop. And I was right. The prices did not drop. They dropped now a tiny bit, but they didn't go back to the olden days, right? And I bet you any money, they never will. Oh yes, I don't think they ever will. But that aside, my question still is, what do we do now, right? Now, do we not buy graphics cards anymore? We need to play on something, right? We can also, I think the vast majority of the people that I've seen talk about this are just like, well, don't buy a graphics card yet, wait. Wait for the new series, wait for, maybe Intel will bring out their own graphics cards, and maybe, oh, there's going to be this, what was it? There was going to be something that just completely replaces the need for a separate graphics card as well. I've read about that, and it's supposedly going to replace the need for a graphics card, and it's going to perform way better than top-of-the-line graphics cards right now. I don't believe it until I see it, mostly because there's been attempts like this in the past as well. It's just that most people don't know about them, and the reason you don't know about them is because they ended horribly. This was attempted before, and yeah, like I said, didn't go well. So anyways, what do we do now? That's the question. We have to play on something, and we can't wait forever, and honestly, I don't know what to tell you. Even buying a 1490 and just thinking that you're set forever is no longer an option, because remember, that was an option. And the people that bought a 1080 back in the day, like way back when, or a 1080 Ti, are now among the happiest individuals on the planet. I guarantee you this. They are among the happiest individuals on the planet, if we could measure happiness somehow with some device. Why? Because they paid a pittance, comparatively speaking, for a top-of-the-line card, which they're still going to use for the next few years, at least. And the way the 1080 Ti is performing now is more than adequate. 1080p gaming, it's phenomenal. For 1440p gaming, it's perfectly fine. Let me be the first to tell you, even on 144Hz monitor, I wanted to get some insane frame rates, like upwards of 120 on most of my games. You get it to 90, and you get it to 90 plus, and I don't really see that much of a difference. I notice the difference. I mean, I talked to my brother, and he doesn't notice a difference between around 40 frames to 140 frames. He just doesn't see it. Mind you, he doesn't play games as much as I do, but for him it's all the same. Now, to me, that's insanity, because 40 FPS on, for me, is bottom line unplayable. It really is, I'm sorry, on PC at least. I realise I might sound like a bit of an elitist, but it's the case for me. It just really feels uncomfortable. It's just not pleasant at all, so yeah. But for some people it's fine. But, again, personal experience, you get it to like 100 and You get it to 90 frames, 80 frames, you're golden. And the 1080 Ti can do that. Sure, in some games you might need to optimize the settings a little bit, but who cares? You can optimize the settings a little bit. So what? And you have an amazing graphics card with amazing drivers, and that's it. To the point where I'm thinking I might honestly recommend to people to just get a 1080 Ti right now. Even a used one, maybe, if it's in good condition and you know it hasn't been used for mining cryptocurrency. If it has, just chuck it out the window. Do not buy that. But if it hasn't, if it's just been used for gaming and someone wants to sell it, and it's a good price, get that instead of any of the newer cards. Because it's not a good situation. In any way, shape, or form. None of it is good. AMD isn't good because they're incompetent in making drivers, and yes, it's a heck of a lot better than it was before, but so what? It's still not good. I still have issues that I shouldn't be having. I still can't turn on physics in Borderlands 2. Okay, niche example. Hearts of Iron is crashing for me. I get screen tearing and flickering, which is sometimes difficult to resolve. I had cable issues with it. I had the drivers crash on me twice in 6 years. My drivers crashed not once. Never. 6 years of gaming every day on this computer for multiple hours. Every single day, practically. Well, not literally, but practically every single day. And they've never crashed. Never a single issue with the graphics card, other than the fact that for some games it just wasn't powerful enough to run them. And then I'm also noticing this issue, which is my recording now crashed. And I don't know if this is the graphics card, or the audio driver, or whatever the hell it is, but I've noticed this issue as well, and I didn't have it with the Nvidia card. It started now. It's kind of pissing me off. I don't know if it's the graphics card. It doesn't make sense for it to be the graphics card, right? It doesn't make sense. It's a microphone, but Nvidia has an audio driver as well. And so does AMD. And I don't know if there's a problem here with this. I don't know what the issue is. I genuinely don't. So I'm going to reserve judgment, but what I'm saying is, if you're a nerd and you can deal with stuff like this, and you know how to handle it, and you know how to solve it, then it might not be a problem. Yeah? You can handle stuff like this. You know how to fix problems, you know how to fix screen tearing, and etc, etc. Then maybe it won't be the greatest problem in the world. Fair enough. But if you don't want to bother with constantly having to tweak something around, AMD's not a good option. That said, I'm still 10 times happier with this card for this price than an equivalent Nvidia card for the same price. I don't know what to tell you. At the end of the day, I'm unhappy with both. That's the real issue, but I have to have something, yeah? I have to have something. So there we go. I also look at consoles a heck of a lot more favorably now. Now, I can go into a whole discussion and a whole separate video on why I do not own a console and do not intend on playing on console or recording videos on console, and mods being a huge part of that, but not just mods, but there's so many other things. But at the same time, I understand now, yeah? I understand now a heck of a lot better, because I look at as I was driving past the local,
infiltrate the Children of the Firehawk and find out if they're planning anything shady.
what would you call those places? It's not like a marketplace, it's,
Go talk to the cult's leader.
it's like one of those huge buildings with a whole bunch of different stores inside it, belonging to like different companies and stuff. For the life of me, okay, it's 3 a.m. It's 3 a.m. My brain doesn't work as well as it should at this point, and I don't remember the word for it, but yeah, that. I was driving past that, and I saw, looking for a parking spot, and I saw out the corner of my eye in the window a PS5 for like less money than I paid for my graphics card. And I was like, God damn it. See, on the one hand, I wouldn't have... It's not the same. It's like comparing a phone to a tank, in my modest opinion. Just a console and a PC is not the same thing. But at the same time, you look at just the price itself and you go, God damn it. I don't mind paying this much as long as the product I'm getting is good. But there's a downward spiral of quality and convenience that I'm experiencing here with these cards and with both Nvidia and AMD. And I'm not a big fan of that, as you might imagine. It's a depressing time, honestly. But at the same time, I do hasten to add that the situation's not all that bad, right? It's not like I paid $1,000 or $900 and got a shit product that I'm not happy with. I am happy with these cards. It's just that they used to be a lot better, and I remember a time when they used to be a lot better, and for this amount of money you can get an insane graphics card with no issues with no issues whatsoever attached to it. Now you can't, unfortunately. And that makes me sad, and that makes me a little bit angry, but at the same time, I've also noticed, so I'll reserve judgment on this as well until I get a new CPU, because I will get that. I've also noticed that my games generally tend to perform a little bit worse than I've seen on benchmarks. Now, it's not significantly worse, but I've also, with AMD, I've noticed drops in frame rate, which are a little bit consistent, yeah? And I've noticed this in the Spider-Man game, I've noticed this in Red Dead Redemption, I've noticed this in several titles, that the card will work just fine, and I'll get my 100-something, 200 frames, whatever, and then for a short while it'll just dip down to like 60, 70, which is very bad. Again, maybe I'm an elitist for some people that are still playing on old computers, and, you know, like, oh, I'm happy if I get 60, you know, throughout my game, or I'm happy if I get 30 through most of my game. Look, I'm on your side. I had a 1060 up until this point. I know what it's like to boot up a new game and it runs at 15 frames a second, and you're like, oh, guess I'm not playing this anymore. I know what it's like, right? So, bear with me. For a card of this power and this price, that's also unacceptable. Those frame rate drops are somewhat consistent. I've experienced them in FIFA as well, which I don't know if it's a FIFA problem. Sometimes, oftentimes, situations like, or problems like this are due to the game rather than due to your system. But at the same time, I haven't seen those problems on Nvidia cards. And it just makes me angry at AMD, because they were given a layup, to use like basketball language, right? They were given a layup. All they had to do was do the exact same thing Nvidia's been doing for years, catch up to them in terms of their drivers, their stability, their overall convenience and performance, and just put more VRAM in the card. They don't even have to perform better, right? They can be neck and neck in performance. They genuinely can. But just put a little bit more VRAM, and at that point, only an insane person would buy anything other than an AMD card. Yeah? There's no reason to, right? At that point, they will be objectively better at everything. Or not at everything, they will be objectively either the same or better than Nvidia at everything, right? It was so easy. I understand it's easier said than done, and that you can't really just overnight make your drivers better. A lot of it is down to the way game engines are made, and your cooperation with game developers, and etc, etc. I understand all of these things, I really do. I understand it's nowhere near that simple, but we were so close to greatness, right? We were so close to greatness, and they mucked it up. Yeah. Unfortunate, but they mucked it up. And yeah, I guess that's all I have for this video. It's gone on for quite a while now. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Like, subscribe down below if you enjoyed it and want to stay tuned with the rest of the content that I produce on this channel. That was about it. I will, like I said, in about 30 days when I get my next paycheck, probably invest into buying a whole-ass new computer, honestly. So a new motherboard and a new CPU. I'll keep the RAM, because it's RAM, it's awesome. And I have 16 gigs of it, and it's more than enough for pretty much everything I run. So I'll get a new CPU, and I'll see how the card performs with a newer CPU. And I'll get an AMD CPU, right, as well. I'll get a Ryzen, because in terms of CPUs, they are the GOATs. Although, I still maintain Intel isn't bad, it just gets a bad rep nowadays. It's kind of the opposite situation, right? AMD gets a really bad rep for GPUs in general, and Intel nowadays is getting a pretty bad rep for CPUs. I maintain I'm elated with how mine is performing, considering it's, was it 5 or 6 generations old? But at the same time, I checked some of the performance with the newer models, with the similar amount of cores, and okay, not really similar amount of cores. This is, I think, quad-core processor. You can obviously get like 16 cores or something like that. So they will be better, but honestly, the difference in performance is not so night and day as I thought it would be. Like the difference between 1060 and Nvidia 1060 and AMD 7900 XT is, I think, like 200 or 300% or something like that in performance. Don't take my word for it, I don't remember, but I know that the difference was insane. For CPUs, like for the Intel, I have 6700K, or a 6800K. I don't remember the model off the top of my head because it's been ages since I've seen it and talked about it. But the one that has the 4-core one, right, that runs at 4 GHz, and I've overclocked it a little bit, like I said, and I've a really good cooling system in there too. So it's like about 20 to 30% better, I think, maybe even more than what you would get stock. So it's, like I said, it's good. It's not the most amazing thing ever, but it's pretty darn good, and I'm really happy with it. If I were to get like a more modern Ryzen with more cores, yeah, it would perform better because it has more cores, but at the same time, a lot of the games that you play aren't going to utilize all of them. And they're not going to utilize all of them effectively, or equally effectively, so the difference isn't really that big. Though I will upgrade because honestly I'm due. It's an old PC, and I have a friend that's willing to buy both my old motherboard and my old CPU from me, pretty much as soon as I upgrade. So yeah, like I'm gonna do it. Why not? If I can sell the old stuff, it will be an equivalent to getting a discount for buying the newer models. So I figure why not to do that. Alright, so I'll talk to you then when I plug all of this stuff together and test it out a little bit, but yeah, I do expect an improvement in performance in those games, and maybe some of those FPS drops will stop, some of them maybe, because, you know, in fact a very likely explanation is that a part of them are due to the lack of processing power. But I can track that. There's software you can use to look at utilization of the CPU, and it's not at 100%, it's not at 90%, it's around 60% to 70% when those FPS drops happen, and the GPU is at around 95 to 99%. So yeah, for most of them it's the GPU, isn't it? I said for most of them it's the GPU, isn't it? Yes, it is.
Welcome,
Yeah.
customer.
I don't know what to tell you. I spent like a full month's paycheck on PC parts at this point, and oh, okay, minus some food and some bills and some other stuff, but I've spent a full month's salary on it, and given the quantity of money that I've given, I expected much more. And just even if, not as a consumer, just as someone genuinely just looking at the market as because he's interested and he's a nerd, right? Just looking at that, I also expected much more from both of these companies, and they just aren't delivering. So it's unfortunate, but there's nothing I can do about it, so, you know. Okay, let me just grab some new skills, and I'm going to end the video right there. Kind of a depressing note to end on, but yeah. Oh well, I suppose. Anyways, that's about it. Have fun, take care, bye-bye. And, oh, if you have some experience with any of this that I've talked about, please feel free and write something down in the comment below, or you can contact me on the community Discord. I'm trying to liven that thing up a little bit now with content and stuff, so you can message me. Try again. You can message me there if you want to. Just make sure to tag me, so that there's a much better chance that I'm going to see it. But yeah, that's about it. I'd love to have a discussion with some of you guys on this, and what do you think? Am I right, or am I just completely bonkers and out of my mind? Anyways, see you all next time. Bye-bye.